If you think I'm going to go outside and ask a bunch of strangers if they would use my product or service idea, you'd be wrong, because I'm going to go do that online. Welcome to episode 4 of Entrepreneurial Dreams. If this is your first time here, this is my self-challenge to build a SaaS business in 12 months. Last episode, I analyzed my top 10 ideas and narrowed it down to my top 4. As a quick recap, they were in the following areas: traveling, self-taught developers, marketing funnels, and vacations. In this episode, I'm going to explain the exact game plan that I'm going to use to test out each of my ideas on the market with potential customers and determine which idea has the most traction. Maybe I'll even get some pre-sales. Who knows? Okay, to the game plan. Wait! I'm actually not going to test out any of my ideas. Well, not directly at the beginning. If you are totally confused, I'm going to show you why not later on. Just bear with me. Though before I begin, I just want to thank all of the amazing and successful entrepreneurs out there who have passed down all of their knowledge through books, podcasts, articles, and videos that I've been fortunate enough to come across and consume. I especially want to thank Dane Maxwell and Ryan Robinson, as my game plan comes from a combination of their expert insights. Okay, the game plan for real this time. The first step is to figure out who your ideal customer or target audience would be for each idea you have. To give you an example of this, I'm going to go over the Minutely project example that I talked about in my last episode. If you are new here, this was just a group project that I had worked on at Hack Zurich, which was a hackathon. The project idea was simply to automate the process of taking meeting minutes or notes. If you are curious to learn more about the project itself, I'll attach a video link to it in the description below this video. The first thing I would do is look at my lean business canvas that I did in the previous episode, or as you can see here, and ask myself which group of people would be the best to target for this idea. This is a super tough question to answer as it's a very broad niche. There are a lot of different industries and people that could benefit from this idea, so it's difficult. The first thing you'd want to do is target a specific group of people or a specific industry of people before you continue. If we go back to the lean canvas example, you'll see we have all of those ideas, and the one that sticks out to me the most would be the Scrum Masters as part of tech companies. The reason that I would personally go with them is because I already know a few Scrum Masters, so that is definitely a head start, and I do know that they have a lot of meetings in general, so this tool or service could potentially be very helpful and beneficial for them. Now, once you have a specific target group or audience that you want to focus on, you can move on to step 2. The second step is to make a list of people, online communities, and groups where your target audience would be hanging out. This one is simple. You start with the people you know and who you are most closest with in your network, and you work your way out to complete strangers. Continuing with the Minutely example, I would write down the names of 3 to 5 Scrum Masters in my network that I could contact. Later on, I would also ask them if they knew of any other Scrum Masters that I could connect with who would also find this idea useful and I could chat to. That way I would have a nice little group of people I could chat with. Next, I would do some research and figure out where I could write an online message that would be seen by other Scrum Masters. Some examples of where these places could be are simply going on Twitter and finding 5, maybe 10 affluent Scrum Masters on Twitter who have a bit of a following. So as you can see here, I just typed Scrum Master, I sorted by people, and here's a list of people that I could go through. I could do the exact same thing, go on LinkedIn, make sure I select career or job title with the words Scrum Master, and then I would get a list of people that I could contact. I could also go and check out on Reddit if there's any communities, and there is one that happens to be Scrum, so I could go here, read some of the postings, what's on here, and then alternatively I could also create a post and see what sort of reaction I get and how many conversations get played out. And the next place that I could go to is just going to Facebook and checking out groups. So if I typed in something like Scrum Master groups, I'd get a list of Facebook groups here, and I would try and figure out which one is the most active, has the most members and most participation. Then I would join them and slowly start participating. I could also look at online Scrum Master conferences that are coming up and see if I could possibly join any. Alternatively, meetups, but that's more in person. And then I also might just take a look and try and find some Scrum Master blogs that are out there and see ones that have maybe comments and you could communicate with other people, or just messaging directly to the blog author. Once you have your list of people, you'll want to screen your list to make sure that they are a good fit for the problem that you are trying to solve. In the case of the Minutely example, if someone wasn't a Scrum Master anymore, they wouldn't be a good candidate. For the online places, you want to figure out which group has the most communication, participation, and interaction. You want to find the best online source so that you can spend your time wisely. The third step is to reach out, post, or interact with these people or communities and have one-on-one conversations with as many of them as you can. The whole point of this step is to have as many conversations as you can with your target audience and learn from them. For the names that you wrote down, try to interact with some of their posts, tweets, articles for a bit to build up a little bit of a connection. Then after a few days, you can try messaging them privately or directly so you can have a conversation. In the case of LinkedIn, and continuing with the Minutely example, you could write a LinkedIn post asking if there are any Scrum Masters in your greater network that wouldn't mind having a chat with you. So much like what you see on the screen here, and something short, to the point, and direct that you can post on your feed or wall. Now you might be wondering, what do I talk to them about? Do I just share them my idea? No. There are many different ways that you could go about doing this, and there is no right or wrong way. You just need to experiment and see what works best for you and your personality. It could end up being something that takes longer and requires more effort, or it could be quick and direct. One approach on the longer and more effort side would be to build up a bit of a connection with the person that you want to approach first, namely on the personal side. So you could share something with them that you think they would find useful. You could ask them about some project that they've worked on or where they've worked. If they've written any posts or articles, you could also ask a genuine question about a topic. And at some point, you will want to move the conversation to private messages so you can ask them what you want and move the topic closer to around your idea. We don't want to directly reveal our project idea to avoid bias. We want to get a confirmation that it is a painful problem for our target audience first before you go and reveal your idea that solves the problem. In my example with the Minutely project idea, I would find out what their pains, frustrations, and struggles are as Scrum Masters. What do they find most annoying in their daily work? Then I would dig deeper into those problems and pains to understand them better. At some point, I would ask them what their thoughts are about meetings. And finally, I would directly ask them if they have to take meeting minutes or notes during meetings and gauge their reaction. If they don't answer those last two questions favorably, as in they don't take meeting minutes or meeting notes, or it's just not a pain or frustration for them, then I would politely end the conversation as soon as possible. Move on to the next person and keep doing this until you find someone who does have this who does find taking meeting minutes or notes during meetings as a pain or frustration for them. When you do find someone, you'll want to dig deeper into the problem pain topic with them, and at some point mention that you are considering working on a project idea that would automate that. Then ask them if they would be interested in getting updates on the project. If they are, great. The aim of this step is for you to build a little audience feedback group that you can continually chat with as you develop the idea further and further. If nobody in the group of people who you are targeting, in my example, Scrum Masters, experiences any pain or frustration with your idea, then you will need to start over and pursue a different group of people or an industry and target them instead. Otherwise, you can consider pursuing a different idea altogether. Once you've collected enough confirming information, feedback, and people who would be interested in getting updates on your idea, then you can move on to step 4. The fourth step is to create basic Facebook ads for each idea. The point of ads is to test scalability and get a better idea of the customer acquisition costs. The ad messaging should be direct and specific. It should be written to your target audience with the same language that they used in describing their pains around your idea. At the end, you will want to briefly introduce your solution. From here, you'll want to get them to send you a message on Facebook Messenger or take them to a landing page with additional information. Either way, you'll want to collect their email addresses and again have conversations with these people. Once you confirm that they have pain around your project idea, you will ask them if they'd be interested in joining your little feedback audience group. The more people that join your group, the better. In terms of how much to spend on ads, well, it all depends on you, but maybe you could budget somewhere between $25 to $50 per idea to run your ads. Once you're finished with this step, we can move on to step 5. The 5th step is to analyze and narrow it down to one idea to pursue. Here, you'll want to compare the results for each of your ideas. See how many people ended up joining your little feedback audience group in total. Compare the numbers from paid advertising to direct outreach. And you'll also want to dig deeper into the data from your Facebook ads. This means that you should find out the average cost per conversation and an average cost per joining your feedback group or group joiners. So the first one, average cost per conversation, can be calculated by taking the total ad cost and dividing it by the amount of conversations you had for each idea. For example, let's say that you spent $50 in ad costs for one idea, and from that you had 8 conversations. That means your average cost per conversation works out to $6.25. The second one, average cost per group joiner, is calculated by taking the total ad cost and dividing it by the amount of people who had joined your feedback audience group. In this example, the ad cost would remain the same, $50, and let's say out of those 8 people you talked with, only 2 had joined your feedback group. This means that the average cost per group joiner is $25. You will want to pick the idea that has the lowest customer acquisition cost. In this case, that is just based on the amount of conversations you've had and the amount of people who have joined your feedback group from your ads. Moving on to the 6th step. Here you will create a mini proof of concept in order to find paying customers. Here you will want to engage the people in your feedback group one-on-one in order to help you figure out what features and benefits are needed in creating your proof of concept. After, you can message someone in the group, ask them for feedback, and continually adjust your proof of concept as necessary. Once your proof of concept is finished, you will want to individually invite people to check it out and give you some initial feedback on it through a short survey. One important note is you want to make sure in your survey to ask if they will buy your product or service. Then you want to reach back out to them and thank them for their feedback, comments, and questions. You want to make sure that you respond back to everything that they brought up. At the very end, and only for those people who had said they would buy your product or service, you want to ask them if they would be comfortable to prepay or pre-order your product, service, right now at a discount price. If you get payment, great. Continue and keep getting more. If nobody wants to pay for it, you will need to reassess and figure out why not. Maybe the problem isn't painful enough. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe they're just not a decision maker. You will need to figure that out on your own and either continue with the idea but with a different target audience, pivot your idea based on the problems that you did here, or pursue your next best idea. Alright, that was a lot of information. Now the key thing to keep in mind from everything that I said is that all ideas start with a problem, and you need to find confirmation of the problem first from your target audience before you go and push your idea solution on them. I'm also hoping that you were able to follow all 6 of those steps, as that is the exact game plan I'm going to use to test out each of my 4 ideas. Through that process, I'm going to figure out which idea I'm going to pursue and build a SaaS business around. Since this will take quite a bit of time to complete, I will create some videos at certain interval points to keep you guys updated on my progress and let you know how things are going. Very likely, the first video update will be after some initial market feedback and a few one-on-one conversations with people from each idea. I'm super excited to start some real work on this challenge. See you guys next time.